Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar on sleep and why getting enough of those Z's is so important. You've got Coach Shelby and Kevin today doing the presentation, but before we get started, just a couple of items to take care of. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, so you can type those into your question box once we get to the end of the webinar, and we will be posting a recording of the webinar online. I will have that site up at the end of our presentation today as well. If you would like a copy of the presentation in PDF format, please email our support inbox, which again we will show at the end of the webinar. So let's get to it. The agenda today will consist of the science behind sleep and how it affects our bodies, factors that affect our sleep, creating a good sleep environment, and how we can change our lifestyle to help our sleep. Before we get into the science of sleep, I want everyone to think about a scenario. Has anyone ever had to get up at 4 a.m. to, say, catch a flight, come to work early, or maybe had little kids that decided they needed to wake up and get the day started? Whatever the reason, most of us have been in this situation. Now think about this. How did the rest of that day go? Were you tired? Were you mentally in a fog, a little bit grumpy maybe? Did you rely on caffeine and sugary snacks to get some quick energy? Did you do those healthy activities like exercise, eat quality foods, or did you crash on the couch and make a quick or easy choice on supper? Okay, now to my point. We've all had some days like this, which is life, right? But if you're consistently not getting enough of that sleep that your body needs, even if you think you are quote-unquote used to it and are doing fine, you can be doing some major damage to your body. I just saw an article last week, maybe some of you saw it, that talked about a study from the CDC on sleep and how 1/3 of Americans aren't getting enough of it. Only 65% of the 400,000 people said that they got 7 or more hours of sleep a night. Now, the National Sleep Foundation recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults 18 to 64 and 7 to 8 hours for adults 65 and above. For those of you listening who may be in management or have employees underneath you, another article from McKinsey & Company touches on how research tells us that sleep-deprived brains lose the ability to make accurate judgments. So we can irrationally think that we don't need sleep or we're doing fine with a couple of hours, which starts a very vicious cycle, right? To get a little bit more into the scientific side of that study, they talk about the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that directs what psychologists call executive functioning, including things like problem solving, reasoning, organization, inhibition, planning, and executing plans. The things that help us get stuff done, at work especially, and at home. Neuroscientists know that although other brain areas can cope okay with little sleep, the prefrontal cortex cannot. So what does this say about the value of sleep when it comes to efficiency in business? Should we be focusing more on making sure our employees are not overworked and skipping sleep? I would say a big yes to that. Kevin will touch on what we can do to help ourselves overcome sleep problems, but it's important to note that if you aren't getting enough sleep, you're not alone. It has become an epidemic in our society, as we're seeing from these studies. But it's also an issue that we can get under control with some simple lifestyle changes. So let's get into how sleep affects our body. You might be thinking, what does it really matter if I don't get enough sleep? I've got a lot to do. It can't affect me that much, right? I'm maybe exercising. I'm still eating pretty well. Well, it does matter. It matters a lot, and it does affect you. It affects you a lot. The first area lack of sleep is going to affect is our weight. Several studies have linked insufficient sleep and weight gain. For example, one study found that people who slept fewer than 6 hours per night on a regular basis were much more likely to have excess body weight, while people who slept an average of 8 hours per night had the lowest relative body fat of the study group. And it's not just for adults. Babies, for example, who don't get enough sleep are more likely to develop obesity later in childhood too. So how does this lack of sleep lead to weight gain? What's the mechanism? Well, we've got 2 separate hormones that affect our appetite, leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is the hormone that gives us that nice, full feeling after we eat. Ghrelin is the hormone that signals us that we are hungry. We've all gotten a bit hangry from time to time, right? When you get angry because you're hungry, that's what ghrelin does. But anyways, when you don't get enough sleep, your leptin decreases and your ghrelin increases. That's not good, right? The hormone that's supposed to tell you that you are full is going away, and the hormone that's supposed to tell you that you're hungry is increasing. That is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. But this is a reason that when you're tired from that 4 a.m. flight that you crave food all day long. Makes sense. This should be reason enough for a lot of you to start working on your sleep, but don't worry, we've got a lot more coming at you here too if you're not convinced. Moving on, diabetes. People who sleep less are at an increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Lack of sleep changes the way we process glucose. Basically, we process the glucose more slowly when we are sleep deprived, which means there is more sugar left in our body, and boom, we get diabetes. Sleep duration and quality are recognized predictors of hemoglobin A1C, which is actually an optional test on our screening, but this is the test that what most doctors use to determine if we're controlling our blood sugar. The good news again, studies have found that improving your sleep can help reduce the effects of type 2 diabetes. So if you're suffering from high blood sugar issues, put sleep right there at the top of your priority list. Next, cardiovascular risks. Even 6 to 7 hours, which is just an hour less than the recommended sleep, can be associated with an increased risk of predictors of heart attack and heart disease. So I'm thinking a lot of you probably fall into this amount. I know I do some nights. Researchers don't know the exact mechanisms behind why this link is there. Lack of sleep isn't necessarily the actual cause. It's more about the other factors, like the insulin issue and poor decision-making I talked about previously, that end up causing cardiovascular disease. But sleep was the catalyst behind those other issues, so that's why we need to focus on it. When you're not sleeping, you're choosing poor habits, you're not doing as much physical activity, cardiovascular disease, direct correlation there. To this, another condition that affects our cardiovascular health is sleep apnea, which falls more on that quality side of things. This is connected with an increased risk of hypertension, which is high blood sugar, stroke, coronary artery disease, and irregular heartbeat. Sleep apnea is a disorder where you have one or more pauses in your breathing, or you have very shallow breathing while you sleep. These pauses can be up to hundreds of times a night. When we pause breathing, we aren't taking in oxygen, which means the brain and the rest of the body doesn't get enough, which makes sense when you say it's linked to health risks. We do a risk level for sleep apnea on our screening that takes into account factors like age, gender, neck size, and questions from the survey about snoring and energy levels. So this is a condition that needs to be addressed by your doctor. So if you're at a higher risk level, make sure you address it the next time you go in for your appointment. Your immune system is also affected by sleep or lack thereof. Let's take the common cold, for example. In a study from the Journal of the American Medical Association, people who averaged less than 7 hours of sleep a night were about 3 times more likely to develop cold symptoms than those with 8 hours or more when exposed to that cold-causing rhinovirus. When you sleep, your immune system releases infection-fighting products. So when we get those infections and viruses in our body, if we don't have enough sleep, your body is going into that fight shorthanded. To add another issue, since our immune system is suppressed, even if we get vaccines for, say, the flu, for example, it takes longer for our body to respond, making us more vulnerable to get sick than if we were well rested when we got vaccinated. And it's not just colds and flus. Being sleep deprived makes us less able to deal with chronic conditions that we may already have, like Parkinson's disease or MS. Now, if you're grumpy or moody after one night of less sleep, it only makes sense that chronic lack of sleep would lead to possible mood disorders, right? Sleep issues have been correlated with depression, anxiety, and mental stress. Again, something that is pretty much common sense, but if you take a second to actually think about how our brain can be affected long term, it's actually kind of scary. Even things like optimism and sociability decline in some studies that look at people who lack sufficient sleep. But just like diabetes can be reversed, once they return to a normal sleep schedule, those symptoms improved dramatically in the studies that they've had. Now, before we jump to Kevin with actions you can take, as I know a lot of you are ready to make some changes after everything I just told you, I do want to touch quickly on some of the main factors that can affect our sleep and quality of sleep. First and foremost is going to be stress. That's a big one. If we're having trouble dealing with events, people, really anything in our lives, we tend to lose sleep because our brains are constantly in that state of stress. Other factors on how much sleep we get include age and our internal clock. We know that as we age, the amount of sleep we need declines. Babies get a ton, and then it goes down from there as we get older. Adults should get 7 to 9, like I said earlier, but as we get older, our internal clock, or circadian biological clock, and the other system that regulates our timing of sleep, our sleep-wake homeostasis, they tend to interact with each other differently as we age. So just a bit of background on this. Our sleep-wake homeostasis is what we need to sleep if we've been awake for a long time, and it also helps us to maintain enough sleep throughout the night to make up for those hours of being awake. Our internal circadian biological clock regulates the timing periods of sleepiness and wakefulness throughout the night. So it dips and it rises at different times throughout the day. For adults, the strongest sleep drive during the day is usually between 2 to 4 a.m. and 1 to 3 p.m. That 2:30 feeling in the afternoon, yeah, that's a real thing. Now, this can fluctuate between people, so there is truth to being a morning person or a night owl, but here's the important thing. The sleepiness we feel during the circadian dips are less intense if we have sufficient sleep. Now, on the other hand, it also helps us if we don't have enough sleep because the circadian rises will help us have a bit more energy, even if we don't get our 7 to 9 hours, but again, it's not going to be a great big amount. So the relationship between these two systems shifts during our lifetime. During our teen years, for example, we see a shift to wanting to stay up later. And as we get older, the window that the internal clock enables sleep narrows. So we tend to get up earlier, and then in turn we get sleepier earlier in the evening. The last area that I'm going to mention includes things like light, medication, caffeine, and alcohol. I'm not going to go into specifics due to lack of time here, but we know that having external factors like these mess with our sleep. So do some research of your own on any medications you take. Kevin's going to touch on some of these factors as well, but look into how much these things affect your sleep because they absolutely do. And just a note, if you find that you think you are getting enough sleep, but you're still feeling tired, you can't stay asleep, you can't get to sleep, have insomnia, make sure you check with your doctor as there are even more factors that can be at play here. A sleep diary, which Kevin's going to mention again too, can help pinpoint some issues. So think about tracking those factors during the day and see if you can find a trend on if they affect how much sleep and the quality you're getting. All right, fun fact of the day, koalas sleep 22 hours a day. Now, I'm raising my hand. Who else is wishing they were a koala right now, right? Okay, there's my transition to Kevin. Let's get to the valuable part of today's webinar, some tips and actions you can take to get that sleep back on track.
Awesome, thanks Shelby. So let's start with the bedroom because having the right environment can make a world of a difference. Really, I want you to start thinking about darkness. This is key because it promotes the body's natural production of melatonin, which helps regulate your circadian rhythm, like Shelby was mentioning. So really think of your bedroom as a cave. All right, for third shift workers, this means blackout blinds, making the room completely dark during the day. Also like a cave though, I want you to focus on temperature. Most people find it most comfortable when the temperature is between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because during the day, your 98.6 degree body temperature fluctuates a couple degrees warmer and then a couple of degrees cooler at night. So you're helping aid this process of the cooling. Now when it comes to sound, this can be a double-edged sword because some people find noises to be distracting. However, for some, noises help slow brainwaves and relax your mind. There are different types of helpful noises, some like white noise, which is like a fan, pink, which is like the rain or water, a consistent tone, or even music with classical music without words. Now try an app on your phone. I do know a few people that have used this. It does help, so feel free to try that out. Our alarm clock can be distracting, so turning down the brightness or angling it away from you can help avoid that stimulation. On the plus side, some provide noise generators, so killing two birds with one stone with that. Now in our day and age, electronics are everywhere, so this means to unplug. No TV, cell phone, tablet, or computer at least 1 hour before bed, as these activities and the blue light that they produce promote stimulation. On that note, check out our Unplugged webinar that aired December of 2015 for just some more information on how to get away from those electronics. Now, keeping your room and carpet clean. I'm not going to lie, cleaning is not my favorite, but this can help rid of allergens which could aggravate our sleeping patterns. And as Shelby mentioned, a sleep diary or tracking. Okay? This allows you to be more aware of not only the quantity, but the quality of your sleep. You all have access to tracking on the My Health Check 360 website. Go ahead and check that out. It is obviously free to you guys. However, sometimes getting a new mattress or pillow can be all it takes to get a more restful sleep. Think about replacing your mattress every 9 to 10 years and pillow every 1 to 2. This can help prevent the loss of back support, buildup of allergens, and even dust mites. Now, washing your pillowcase, the pillow sheet, anything, or the bed sheet, anything like that, that can help extend these lives, so think about that. But if you are thinking of purchasing, throughout the year, many mattress stores offer big sales. I think you guys can all remember all the President's Day sales that were going on. That's the perfect time to think about it. Healthy lifestyle prior to sleeping can also influence our sleep quality. Making sure to get 20 to 30 minutes of exercise daily can help tire your body and release that endorphins, which help relieve stress and make falling asleep easier. Have you guys ever seen a 4-year-old running around like a little maniac, and then a couple hours later you see them pass out on the floor, laying on their face in some uncomfortable places? Really, it's the same concept. It tires your body out. And having proper nutrition can also help. This means avoiding processed foods and focusing on quality proteins and veggies. This can help prevent you from tossing and turning during the night due to hunger. Now, this doesn't mean going and eating right before bed like crazy, but it just means to be more mindful of what you are consuming. Continuously working on stress management can help give that restful mind of yours a break. I really want you to remember prevention is key to all of this. A few things you can do to help prevent are exercise, deja vu, right? Staying hydrated, meditation, deep breathing, or even tensing your toes and whole body and then relaxing to feel what true relaxation is like can help. Obviously, there are many more techniques, but these are just a few. If you are interested, we do have a stress management webinar that you can also check out. Again, practice beforehand. Practice, practice, practice. Doing this when you're not stressed can help promote muscle memory and maybe prevent stress from happening in the first place, right? Back to prevention. And sleep. Sticking to a regular sleep schedule promotes a healthy circadian rhythm, like Shelby was mentioning. Ever wonder why daylight saving time affects us so much? It's because we just threw off our rhythms by an hour. It's similar to jet lag, which can last for days. Drinking water, finding sunlight, staying cool at night, and avoiding naps can all help you get back into that rhythm. Now, when trying to get to bed earlier, avoid attempting much more than 30 minutes, okay, as this can prevent you from laying in bed and getting frustrated with not being able to fall asleep, thus getting stressed and not falling asleep even longer. Avoid naps after 3 p.m. Now, power naps of about 20 to 30 minutes can be beneficial in helping you become more alert. And yes, it is important to use your bed for only sleep and sex. Now let's talk about preparing for bed. Again, avoid stimulating activities. If you're going to exercise ideally 5 to 6 hours before or more to allow adequate time for your body to relax post-workout. Also avoid caffeine, nicotine, as they are stimulants, or even spicy and large meals. Alcohol is a depressant, which I'm sure you all can relate to, will help you aid fall asleep, but then will help promote a less quality sleep. So that's the whole quality side of it. We're trying to avoid that. And dress in comfortable clothing. Dim the lights to help decrease cortisol levels, and turning off electronics can help prevent the body for sleep. Prepare the body for sleep. I think it said prevent. Help prepare the body for sleep. Also find calming activities to do, such as reading, writing, or even meditation. Everyone has their own way to relax, so really find yours. Now, these are some of the sources that we looked up. We got a lot of great information from there. Personally, I found sleep.org and sleepfoundation.org to be very helpful. They give you guys a lot of helpful tips, finding mattresses, different things like that. Go ahead and check them out.
And you can always contact us too. We have tips on Facebook of different things. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Like Kevin mentioned, a couple of our past webinars, and this webinar will be on there too at our blog, healthcheck360blog.com, or contact a health coach. You can call us or you can email us anytime. And again, sleep trackers are on myhealthcheck360.com if you've got an account there, which you all should. So go there, see what we've got, and then we do have our upcoming webinars here. We're going to open it up for questions here in a couple minutes, but just to reiterate, next month, April, Red Meat 101, everything you need to know about red meat. May is going to be Improved by 5, improving that Health Check 360 score. All right, we're going to open it up for questions here. We have a question on the best sleeping position. That's an interesting one, and one that I have looked up before. Typically, it's kind of a preference thing, but side sleeping and making sure that you've got a quality pillow and a quality mattress are what I have personally read is the best position. If you're a snorer, you don't want you to be on your back too much. If you sleep on your stomach, there can be issues with back problems, things like that. So that would be a great resource to go to that sleep.org or sleepfoundation.org to that one.
Also, pregnant people obviously have different standards there, so always keep that in mind. You guys obviously will know your health, so you can keep it from there.
All right, we've got some questions about foods to eat to help you sleep. Yeah, basically, Kevin mentioned a little bit about this, but a couple specific examples. Cherries are actually a good option because they have natural melatonin, which is the hormone in our body that promotes sleep. So something like that. Basically, you want to avoid high-fat foods. So your chips, your fried foods, your ice cream, because that takes longer to digest. So something that's calming. Some people do tea, warm milk, things like that, and really watch the portions because if you're digesting a bunch of food, it's going to be harder for you to get to sleep. There's a question about recommendations for sleep apnea. Again, we're just gonna go and refer you to your doctor on that because typically if you have issues with sleep apnea, you'll get fitted for a CPAP machine, but your doctor and a sleep study are gonna be the best ways that you're gonna be able to deal with any sleep apnea issues. And same thing, if you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but you're still feeling tired, that goes back to the quality. So make sure that you're still practicing these good habits before you go to bed and throughout the day. And then, check with your doctor again because there's so many different factors that can go into your quality of sleep. Or you may be having a sleep apnea issue too and you just may not know it. So again, no specific magic pill, just check with your doctor and pay attention. One of those sleep diaries might be a good way to figure out what you're doing before sleep that may affect your quality. And like light, Kevin mentioned too, if you've got lights in your bedroom, that can affect the quality as well, just for a specific example. We had a question about sleep deprivation tied to dementia and things like that. That's not something that we can specifically say yes or not, but there are studies out there that do correlate mental issues and things like that to lack of sleep. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that there's lots and lots of issues that are tied to negative sleep habits. We have a question on melatonin. Melatonin it's produced naturally by the body. I think you can take a supplement and it may help. You really have to watch the amount of melatonin that you're taking, because if you're taking too high of a supplement, your body stops producing it naturally. And I think it's a pretty small amount that you even need for a supplement. So once again, refer back to your doctor, do some research on it and see if it would be right for you, or if maybe trying the natural sources like those cherries that I mentioned before as well. Quick question on catching up on sleep. Say you don't sleep during the week and you sleep on the weekends. Absolutely, sleeping on the weekends, if you're getting that quality sleep, is great, but it's really going to be tough to catch up. You cannot catch up. I guess to make it a short answer, you can't catch up on sleep. You're still going to get those negative effects that you're doing throughout the whole week. So if you're not sleeping well 5 out of the 7 days of the week, you're still going to see some of these negative effects that we're talking about. Question about best way to wake up and avoid hitting the snooze. That's a tough one, because basically you have to prevent yourself from getting to that issue in the first place, right? So you need to make sure you're getting to bed at a good time the night before, practicing these good habits, because ideally your body would be able to get into a routine where it wakes up naturally. And I've read where if you can train yourself, at least until you get into some of those other good habits, make yourself physically get up. It's going to be tough right away. Get up before pressing the snooze, because you're going to feel even more tired if you press the snooze. I'm guilty of it myself, but again, prevention is key to not even wanting to be pressing the snooze.
Oh, and also have natural lighting, like we mentioned, that can help promote that cortisol increase, which will help you feel more awake, kind of touching back into the actually getting a full rested sleep and body naturally waking.
We have a question on sleeping pills. That is going to be a conversation between you and your doctor. We can never recommend anything specific as far as to take or not to take, supplements or pills, things like that. You talk about the dependence on things. That's the big issue when we talk about sleeping pills. So do your research, talk to your doctor on that one as well. All right, guys, unfortunately we are out of time. If you did not get your question answered, please go to our website or email healthcoach@healthcheck360.com. We will answer your questions that come in. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for all the questions, and thank you for being with us today. Have a great day.